You know, it's decision day today. The CBN's Monetary Policy Committee meeting wraps up a two-day meeting in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and the decision is expected to be announced later today. Now, there's been so much talk about what the expectation is going to be with regards to rates. Will there be an adjustment or will there be a maintaining of status quo? Talking about this with me this morning is the CEO of UHY Maji & Co., Mr. Gabriel Idahosa. Good morning to you and thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
So, let me just get your perspectives, let me get your thoughts. Do you think the central bank will hold rates, the MPC rather, will hold rates, or will there be an adjustment? Do you think so?
I think there are compelling reasons for adjustments because with the TSA, you've taken all, not some, all of the public sector deposits at the federal level out of the system, which is like 100% reduction. So your CRR at that side of the economy is 100%. You've taken out everything. So the banking system now is essentially relying on private sector deposits. So at 31% on the cash reserve ratio for private sector deposits, the banks have very little left to maintain their current level of business in terms of lending and servicing existing obligations to their clients. And you want to grow the economy. For you to grow the economy, you have to have enough funds in the banking system to lend to businesses.
But then there's this argument that there's always been enough money in the banking system anyway to lend to businesses, but banks have just refused to give it because of one policy or the other from the central bank that they feel is inimical to their own businesses. So what do you think, how do you think this whatever decision it is that will be coming out from the MPC after this meeting will impact on business growth?
Well, clearly we expect that the volume of funds available for lending will reduce, has reduced already with the TSA. And of course, most manufacturers will tell you that it's very difficult to find lending now for fresh applications. A lot of banks struggle to maintain their lending commitments to their clients. But for very significant increase in lending, the banks just don't have the money. They don't have the money. The first was TSA that started, then there was the pressure with the increase in the dollar rates. If you want to buy a dollar to import anything now, rather than 190 naira, you need 240 naira. So that's taking a lot of money out of the system. So you don't really have much money to lend, in the sense of there's a lot of money to lend in the banking system. It's all been drained out by, one, by the fact of the value of the dollar, two, the TSA that has come in. So the banks really, if you engage the banks, they tell you they are like looking for money everywhere. If anybody who has money to give them, they are ready to take.
Talk to us about the probability of keeping the rates unchanged. What kind of impact do you think it will have on the economy? Because it's a 50-50 thing. They could move to adjust the rates, and they could decide to sit back and still watch to see if there's any need for any rates to be cut or any adjustment to be made. So they could decide that they should maintain status quo on all rates, including the CRR that everybody, including yourself, seems to be calling there should be an adjustment in.
Well, if you live in Nigeria, as all the members of the MPC do, I don't see how you will want to sit back and watch the economy grind even harder when the TSA has taken everything. We have to remember that the way the TSA is run in Nigeria is that any federal institution, even a federal government college or a technical school owned by the federal government, now has to move their money to the central bank. It's not just customs, federal revenue fund, the airport authority that collects a lot of money. Any government institution, a primary school owned by the federal government, has to move its money to the TSA. So you have cleaned out all federal deposits, all out of the banking system. So for the MPC to believe that you can still have the economy run at anything near where it was before TSA, by leaving the rates the way they are now, especially the cash reserve ratio, will be very, 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 very unlikely.
But then do you think that the situation as it presents itself is there are grounds for a rate cut, or the rate should remain as they are? The reason why I'm asking this is because there's been conversations and debates about the fact that the banks have ample liquidity, because even with the removal of this about 1.2 trillion naira in terms of MDA's fulfillment, in terms of the banks returning the monies back to a single account, the CBN is still in a couple of months' time going to do another mop-up, suggesting that there's excess liquidity in the system. So we're complaining that there's no liquidity in the system, and the banks also seem to be crying that they don't have liquidity, and the situation just seems to be, one that makes you wonder who is telling you what and what is supposed to be happening at this time.
Well, the periodic excess liquidity we talk about is when the federal allocations come out, and for that few days or weeks, all the money comes out of the federal treasury to the states, and there's a lot of money. Give another 2 weeks, all that money is gone into the system. And so you don't really have permanent excess liquidity in terms of a lot of money available, 6 months money, 1 year money, sitting in the banks that can provide the kind of excess liquidity we are saying. It's a very cyclical type of liquidity that comes, and each time it is there, the CBN wants to mop up. Actually, with the TSA, you will find there's much less need for the CBN to mop up liquidity. The CBN is only going to go to the market to borrow for the federal government to meet their budget deficits. But the frequency and the magnitude of mop-ups are going to be significantly reduced. What is there to mop up when you have taken everything into the TSA?